Evening all, and welcome to another edition. Tonight is a trigger warning, so I have to put that out there. So I hope people do not get offended from this topic. I urge everyone to share, subscribe, and share this with people who you believe will benefit from this particular topic. Now, tonight, I don't know where Dr. Gilly is, but we've got the Comeback Coach Richard Kaufman. How are you, and how's your week been?
I'm doing amazing. It's going to be another amazing episode of the Mental Health Warriors. I'm excited to be here, and I'm so pumped up to be able to hang out with the newlywed, the brand new husband, and the owner of a brand new cat.
Well, I've been married now, 3 weeks, and it's been good. It's been good. We've had a little bit of a rocky, but that's what relationships are like. It brings us closer together, doesn't it? But anyway, hello. Right, go on. Do your routine. Right, so anyway, so tonight we are going to be discussing a sensitive topic, why we put that mask on to hide the vulnerability, the emotions, the feelings, why we do that. So I think, Richard, how about we get cracking with, and if anyone's got any questions in the comments as well, please fire away. Please fire away. And Dr. Gilly's here as well. So how about we get started with, hi, Gilly.
Hi, how's everyone?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm good. I feel like I'm a chicken with her head cut off, but I'm here now.
Is that better? No, I think we should get cracking with why people, like, we all know it's about fear. We know people get scared about talking about their emotions, the feelings, but what's the root cause of it all? What do you think?
People being afraid of talking about their feelings and their thoughts.
Yeah, because obviously the topic is masking mental health.
Right.
So why, like, we all know it's about fear of judgment. They don't want to be a burden. We get all of that. But what is the true root cause of why we say, oh, I am fine. Richard, how are you? I'm fine. No, you're not. What is the root cause to why we hide that?
I mean, I think it's a fear of the other person not understanding or not caring. I think about it like, it's interesting too, because when I do like social skills training with neurodivergent teens, we'll talk about like, when are you actually expected to tell someone how you're really feeling, and when are you supposed to say like, I'm doing great, how are you? Even though you're like not doing great. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like it's just a nicety, which is a strange thing when you think about it concretely. Like, someone asks, how are you? They aren't really asking, how are you? They're basically just saying hello.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Obviously, I have to apologise if there's noise in the background. Kerry's cutting things, which obviously she's wrapping our daughter's birthday presents because it's her birthday in a couple of weeks.
I'm cutting a box for Stitch.
So, yeah, there you go. And cutting a cat box for our new cat.
Whose birthday?
It's our daughter's. She's going to be 12 start of June.
Wow, 12. That's a big deal.
Exactly. And we've also got a comment. The underlying causes of trauma issues and vagus nerve dysfunction symptoms, which are the causes of all chronic diseases and illnesses, including mental health issues. Right. Richard, do you want to elaborate on your experience? Because I know you love talking about how you feel. You feel amazing and all that, but you've not always been like that, have you?
No, and sometimes it's minute by minute. Sometimes it's hour by hour. Sometimes it's day by day. For me, just yesterday, I felt down. I struggle with borderline personality disorder. So, some days I'm up, some days I'm down. But as long as I keep showing up and just being honest and being vulnerable and saying, I'm not feeling it today. I don't feel good. I don't feel right. At least, at least my wife will look at me and she'll be like, something's off. Are you okay? And that's when I got to say, I'm not okay, or I'm just tired, or whatever. But just being honest enough to say, yeah, I'm not doing okay.
Yeah.
And that takes, and
yeah,
it takes, and it takes a lot of pressure off when you're honest with the other person, just saying it. Hey, I'm not okay. You know what I mean?
And that's what it's about. Well, obviously, firstly, if you ever feel shit, or even you, Gilly, feel shit, you're always welcome to message me or post in the Warriors group anyway. And I'm sure we'll jump on you like a pack of hyenas to pick you back up again. But anyway, you hit the nail on the head there, is about all being okay when we're not. And it's being honest as well, because if we're not honest with ourselves and we're saying to people we're okay when we're not, that has a lot of detrimental impact on ourselves and other people as well, doesn't it?
Yeah. At the same time, I was going to say, Richard, like, you're lucky to, you were talking about your wife, right? Like, you're lucky to be married to someone, to have a wife who notices that, who can detect that, first of all, who says, like, something's off, and who doesn't judge you, or who, is accepting, or you feel comfortable enough to tell her, like, no, I'm not okay. Because I really, like, going back to what I was saying before, I really think it has a lot to do with who you're talking to. And if you feel like the other person doesn't actually care, and it would be more of a burden, it would be annoying to them to actually tell them that you're not feeling good. Or, if you're someone who really struggles with mental health issues, like, I have a history of depression. And so, if someone asked me and they really, really wanted to know the truth, like, most of the time, I'm not okay. Like, it's not like I'm dying or like suicidal, like, all of the time. But, like, when you struggle with ADHD and depression, it's like you've got emotional issues, and it's long standing, and it's those are disorders for a reason. So, it's like asking someone who, I've been reading a bit about prolonged grief. And, when you lose someone, and at what point does it become like a disorder? And people who are grieving, if you ask them, like, how are you? Like, they're never really okay. They're not, they'll say, like, I'm okay, or I'm great, or I'm fine. Because if you just said, like, life sucks every time the person asked you, they wouldn't really want to talk to you anymore. There's just this vibe. People don't want to be around it. And you don't want that either. Like, you don't want to be secluded. So I think it's a tough thing to navigate, being completely, transparent, while also keeping those people in your life.
Yeah, and absolutely, and that's what it is. And even with me, when I'm down, like when I'm okay, in a good place, yeah, I've got a bad ankle, bad back, and all that. And Kerry's okay, like, she asks if I'm okay. But when I become withdrawn, she doesn't understand it straight away. It takes her a bit to process. That's probably the BPD. I don't know. I'm still learning about that. And I know it's a broad topic. But she asks me if I'm okay a lot more than usual. So she understands and acknowledges when I withdraw. So it is good. So that, obviously, I'm loving the comments we've had tonight already, which is brilliant. Please, everyone, share this. Please, let's get people in here. So my next topic is next question. Kevin, stop distracting me. Wives. I want to pick on ADHD a little bit. Just go a bit of distraction here. Females mask more when it comes to like autism, ADHD. That's crucial. But when it comes to masking mental health and emotions, do males mask it more than females, or is it equal?
I think you're asking if within the ADHD population, males mask more than females. Is that the question? Yeah. I think in terms of, I don't know. I would say in terms of like ability levels, females are probably better able to mask.
Okay.
Just in terms of like, brain differences and values. Like I think in general, women care more about what other people think of them. And I think there's also like societal expectations for women to behave a certain way, to be like meek, and men have a little bit more wiggle room to I guess like be like aggressive or outspoken, whereas women, if they behave in that way, then it's viewed as like extreme, or oppositional or rude, and so I think in terms of like a social perspective, women with aggression, right? So it depends, it might depend on the emotion, right? Because like with aggression, you don't want to come off as aggressive as a female, but you also don't want to come off as like a wimp or like depressed, or someone who's anxious, like overly afraid as a male. So those are like social constructs and maybe different motivators for males versus women to mask. But in terms of like ability and brain differences and just what the female brain values. I don't know how else, I'm looking for a different word than that. But what it reacts to, okay, what is more reactive to in comparison to males? It's more like wanting to feel accepted and this bigger fear of being rejected. And if you think about it like evolutionarily, women are smaller, they have babies, and so that's the saying, it takes a village, it's true. Like women need other human beings, just in terms of evolutionary like protection and care for their young, for survival.
Yeah, well, we've got a few comments here. This G-Force, are you all neurodivergent people here? I know Dr. Gilly is. I'm a parent of neurodivergent kids.
I need you to grab it.
So, yeah. Richard?
Yep, definitely, 100%.
Yeah, Richard's got ADHD. Obviously, I've got dyspraxia as well. I know we can't self-diagnose, but I've done many online tests, and I believe I've got ADHD as well, but there's no confirmation of that. I need to go and see a professional. But yeah, there's others as well. Carl put, I think women mask more in a social aspect, and men mask as a form of burdenship. What's your views on that?
Yeah.
What's your views, Richard?
Well, this might rankle a few feathers, and that's okay.
Good.
People know that when I talk, I kind of get people going. Women, mostly, we know that they deal with a lot of hormone issues. So if a woman is feeling down or depressed or anxious, a lot of people will be like, "Oh, just chalk it up to hormones." Or if my wife says she's cranky, I probably think because she's either tired, hormones, or something like that. But if a guy we're sitting out hanging out at the pub, and a guy just looks at the other guy and says, "Oh, I'm cranky," or my hormones are off, he's going to get laughed underneath the table, because we're not known to have hormone issues. We're not known to, we're known to be all hoo hardcore macho men, instead of saying, "Yeah, my hormones are out of whack." And so I think it needs to be spoken that men go through hormone issues the same way as women do. We just need to talk about them a little bit more because, I mean, obviously, after the age of 18, we lose testosterone like crazy. And then when you're 40 or 50 years old, you're pretty much at zero. So your hormones are shot anyway. But I think we should be able to talk about that without being laughed at, saying, "Oh, I'm having hormone issues too." Right, Doc?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably the flip side for women, right? Like maybe people, I mean, it is true. Like, I guess it's a hard balance because you want people to recognize that hormones do have an effect on mood. And so it's kind of like it's not our fault if we're heading toward that time of the month and we seem irritable because hormones have a huge have a huge part in that. But at the same time, when there is an actual trigger and we're feeling emotional about something, and then someone says to us like, well, when are you getting your period? Or like, are you just hormonal?
Yeah.
Then it feels invalidating.
Yeah.
And so it's like the opposite, I guess. Sometimes people, I guess, can place too much emphasis on hormones for females and maybe not place enough weight on our insight and ability to distinguish between when it probably is hormonal versus when it's environmental. And for men, I think it's such a good point that you're bringing up that, there could be hormonal contributions or, kind of your own internal like neurochemical challenges that you're going through, but maybe people don't really recognize that as much for men.
Absolutely. We've got Laurie Payne here tuning in on LinkedIn. I think one of your followers, Richard, joining from Winnipeg. I can't even say that other word. She's the founder of the Project Blue World Foundation. She's been told she's either too aggressive or too quiet, but she doesn't think she's here a man is aggressive, but she thinks all of us are, and whoever's on the spectrum, and depending on the day, we are low or high. But when we become aggressive, now I'm talking from experience here. Like, whoever knows me knows I've got an issue with the school system. And when I'm coming across and trying to protect the kids who I believe are being failed in that particular setting, and I'm not being aggressive or anything like that. I say it as it is. And the people that come up to me accuse me of being aggressive. But then they change that and they say that's your trauma coming out. What's the difference between trauma and aggressiveness?
Oh my God. If someone said that to me, I would want to throw the smug at their face. Like, it makes me really angry. Yeah. And with ADHD too, like when we had an episode that was like this, where we were talking about like, oh, trauma causes ADHD. Like, it's like, if anything, that feels so belittling to me because trauma is important. Yes, I have a history of trauma. I lost my mom when I was 4, and there's more than that. I wrote a whole chapter about trauma, like in my book. Trauma is important, but it's not everything. And I feel like, as a psychologist too, like I've worked on teams, and the trauma specialists think everything is trauma, and it's so like so annoying because not everything. You can't pin everything on trauma.
No, you can't. And nice to meet you as well, Laurie. Hope you're well. I'm on LinkedIn as well. G-Force, he's the co-founder of Adult Dyspraxia Foundation too. So there you go. We've got founders in the house here. That's brilliant. Please all share this, guys. So yeah, it can be very tricky.
I hope that didn't come off as too aggressive.
No. Do you know what? And this is what I love. This is what I love about these shows is if people and I put it at the start. This is a trigger warning video. It is. So if people get triggered, I'm seeing if people get triggered, it's not in our intention to go and trigger people. It's not. When people are coming across like this, blunt, direct, and if people take offense to it, I see that as their problem, not ours. And we should be accepted for the way we come across, not because if we don't, that's kind of belittling as well, isn't it?
Well, I mean, I think that's where empathy comes in. You know, like down in the States, you know, it's not what you say to somebody, it's the way do you say to something.
Yes.
So a lot of it is the way you react when somebody says something. And I think that's when it all comes down to self-awareness, that you have to be aware of your triggers and you have to be aware of what you know is going to set you off. So you already prepared ahead of time what you think is going to happen and how you're going to respond. So I think a lot of it has to do with self-awareness and also talking to people with empathy and realizing, hey, everybody's going through something.
Yes.
So how do I talk to that person? They may be just hurting and they may blurt something out. And if I just add on to it and dog pound them, it's just going to get even worse. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So maybe
absolutely.
it's
Robert.
Always, like Doc says, maybe it's not always trauma. It's just we have to learn how to react to other people.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what it is like, I'm going to respond now, and I'm going to react to what Robert Brooke has just said. Just tell them to man up and take it. That can become very sensitive to someone and very triggering, because men get told to man up all the fucking time. They do. And that is the biggest mistake anyone can ever say to a man, is tell him to man up. I've been told to man up when I've been at my worst. And you know what? It sends you over the edge. It does. It sends you over the edge. And you have to find a strategy that works for you guys. You really do. Obviously, I'm not going to get into all the political comments that are coming in tonight. I'm not going to get into that because, yeah, this whole channel will shut down, not just the show. So let's not go down that rabbit hole. But when it comes to masking our emotions, there has to be that support rather than, and going back to the relationships as well, is I advise leave that relationship if they are booting you down when you're already down. Leave it, because that's not respect, and respect goes both ways. What do you think, guys?
Yes, I was gonna say I had this thought. I was speaking to my stepsister the other day. I was with my family in Florida, and she just moved there from California, and she's been dealing with a lot of shit, like with the move, like a lot of just bad things have been happening with the move. And so I'm sitting next to her at dinner, and she's like telling me about it. And then I say, I'm so sorry you had to go through all of that. Like, that really sucks. And she looks at me and she gives me a hug and she says, thank you for saying that. I think since I've gotten here, there's been a lot of, well, at least you're here, or at least you're healthy, or it'll get better, or, you know, we'll work it out. We live in this positivity culture where everything is about, you know, let's twist it and make it positive, right? Like, think positively. But sometimes you just want to tell someone how you feel without them trying to fix it or trying to make it better. And I think that probably discourages people from being honest, because they don't want to hear that again. They just want to tell someone how they feel, and just to get people to listen, and people don't know how to listen and just reflect and sit with discomfort. And so I think, you know, if you want the people around you to open up to you more, You can try to take a step back and try not to correct, try not to find the reason. Sometimes there is no rhyme or reason. I guess that's why I got so angry when, when Adam mentioned trauma, because then people will try to, well, what happened? Did something happen today? Oh, it must be for this reason. But maybe there isn't a reason. Maybe it's hormonal. Maybe it's internal. Maybe it's just a mood. Maybe you're sensorially overwhelmed. Maybe you don't know the reason. You don't really care to find out. You just feel this way. And so, yeah, I guess that could be a way, to get people to open up, but most people don't respond that way.
Well, speaking of opening up, and obviously I'm gonna go for you on Richard, because I'm like that as well. When I'm vulnerable, I'm withdrawn, I'm depressed, and anxiety's all over the place. My head's about to explode, literally. Kerry always asks me what's up, and is there anything she can do to help? And I'm like, I don't know. And she's like, okay, talk to me. I'm like, I can't. It's not a want, it's I can't.
Right.
And she's like, why don't you write it down then? I'm like, I can't. Because I don't know about you, Richard, but when we're like that, it's like we want to say it as it is. We want to come out and say it. The words are there, but they just won't come out. And it's like we can't find the right words as well to express what the hell is going on in our heads.
Yeah, and the last time, and we talked about it on this show, the last time that I tried to delete myself, I told my wife, just hold me. Just take me in your arms and hold me. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to give me opinions. You don't need to do anything. Just hold me until the demons go away. And sometimes I think we just want to be either held, or even sometimes, like Doc was saying, sometimes we just want to be heard. We don't want to be given the answers. But like a lot of times I tell people that are my friends, especially in the mental health warriors, and I tell people, I would rather hear your bullshit than your eulogy.
Yes.
So for me, I may not have the answers, but I have big shoulders and big ears for a reason, because I'll at least sit here and just listen. And I think most of the times people just need somebody to listen to them, and use active listening, not just hearing, but active listening.
Yes.
There's a difference, right, Doc, about active listening and hearing?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So active listening is basically listening without trying to fix whatever the person's telling you. But I think that the key aspect of active listening is the reflection piece. So people tell you about what they're struggling with, and then you come back with reflecting some of what they said or what you think they're feeling. So if they're talking about something as if they're very frustrated, you can respond like, that's really frustrating. And then if you're wrong, then they can correct you. But the whole thing is that you're not sitting there interviewing them and asking them questions. You're just trying to listen and understand.
Yeah. And not tell them what to do as well. Yeah.
Or just don't try to one up them, saying, okay, well, you have this problem. Well, I know cousin Joe has this problem. It doesn't make the person feel any better when you try to one up them when you're talking about problems. No, that doesn't help. You may think it helps, but it doesn't help whatsoever.
Doesn't.
Yeah. And I think maybe with the one-upping, like the other person's not trying, they're not actively trying to one-up the person who's suffering. They're trying to help, but it maybe comes off as one-upping.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, we've got a question. Have you heard of the social model and psychosocial models?
Are you talking about Bronfenbrenner, like the biopsychosocial
I'm talking about
model?
G-Force.
I'm not sure what else. That's just
don't know. But we'll come back to it when he's responded. But yeah, it's. Oh, what about seeing all this from a spiritual perspective?
Okay, I think I understand that question with the spiritual perspective, like a religious perspective in terms of committing suicide, how it's like a sin. I don't know. Yeah. That's kind of the first thing that comes to mind. In terms of like the stigma or the religious perceptions of mental health, how mental health should be dealt with, and what's bad and what's good.
Yeah,
exactly.
But let's talk about that for a minute. And guys, this might get emotional, but I know a lot of people, including myself, that didn't finish taking my own life because of being afraid that I'm going to go to hell, that I'm not going to heaven. And I'm sure there's millions of people in the world. That's the reason why they're not taking their own lives. It's just for that one reason alone. So, it's spiritualism is a big thing. It's never talked about. But I think they just brought up a great point that, when you look at it as a spiritual aspect, it can be really scary of why to do it or why not to do it.
Yeah, I mean, we see actually, people who are religious, it's actually a huge protective factor. But I guess in kind of a backwards kind of way, it's not like people are happier. It's because they're afraid to kill themselves, because if they do, they might go to hell.
Yeah.
Trigger warning.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to ask. I was going to ask straight up as it comes is we get really shitty in our heads, and I wouldn't even want my worst enemy in my head when I'm in that mood. But the question would be, what is keeping you breathing today? When you're through those emotions?
For me, and we talked about it on the show, I actually wrote my own obituary, and I keep it in my wallet. And it says I'm supposed to live till I'm 80 years old and be a good husband and a good father and a good friend. So if I don't live up to that, then I'm failing. So I think writing your own obituary and then trying to live up to that person that you wrote about, I think that may save your life when you get to those hard points.
Yeah, exactly. Gilly?
You guys are breaking up every now and then. Am I? I'm just distracted by that.
I don't know.
No, and maybe it's my connection. Do I look fine? Like
I know I'm crashing.
You sound good to me.
Am I?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I have like a delay in response, that's why. I'm like pretending everything is normal here, but it's just like.
All right. We have a question by Lori. She says, why is mental health such an epidemic now?
I mean, I'll let someone else answer.
Okay. I would say, and I know I'm crossing here. I know I am. I would say it's that because people are still misunderstood and they still misconcept mental health crisis with being an arsehole. That's what I believe of how they come across, that type of character.
I believe it's because we're on such a 24-hour news cycle that everything whether it's on social media, whether it's on the news, you're hearing about more mental health issues. So of course, in our brains, the more you look at something and the more you hear about it, the more you're going to find it using the reticular activating system. So I think the more that we talk about it, the more that's talked about, then the more your mind's going to look for it and actually try to get more information about it. So I think it's because of the 24-hour news cycle.
Yeah, I think I agree with Richard, and I also want to add to that. I am a strong. What's the opposite of a proponent? I'm not a fan of social media. I'm on it because I have to be, like, since I started writing. But before that, I got off for several years. And the reason is because I felt like it was, kind of ironically sucking the joy out of my life. And I needed to spend more, face time with people and be present. And I felt happier during that time. I think now we live in an age of, like immediate gratification and looking for dopamine dumps through our environment. And it's detrimental and it's going to catch up with us eventually. We want anything like online shopping, video gaming, just constantly like trying to find like the next best reel or meme or waiting for someone to message us. I think it although it feels like it's fulfilling and like you're being social, you're not really being social and you don't really get the same benefits that you would get if it was face to face. The other thing I think is, at least in Western culture, I think that there's this big emphasis on individuality and standing out and work and success. And the way that success is defined is so limited to fame and, like income generation. But at the end of the day, like we all end up in the same place, so like while we're alive, it's all fine and dandy. But, I think people are much more connected than they realize, across
They
culture
absolutely
and
are.
culture of the world. And I think the emphasis on having to stand out and be amazing and be the best and an individual, as opposed to also valuing just being a part of a group. That's the other thing that's leading to mental health issues.
Okay, I want to address the elephant in the room here. Before we obviously get to Laurie's comments, which are brilliant. Thank you for all this interaction, guys. I really love it. Let's just talk about COVID for a second. Let's just talk about that. I know we've all got our views on it. I'm not going to get into that. But when it comes to your mental health emotions, what has COVID taught you from reaching out before COVID to reaching out during COVID and reaching out after COVID for support?
Nobody wants to talk about that.
No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your emotions before, during, and after getting help.
Well, I think there's two camps. I think there's one camp that succeeded even more than they ever thought because of COVID, because of being home and being by themselves. And then there's the other camp where they struggled with their mental health because they're no longer able to see their friends. They're no longer able to hang out with their friends and do certain things. And they slid back. So I think there's two different camps. Like for me, I found I did much better in one way because that's when my podcast started, was during COVID. So everybody was home and listening to podcasts. So I did well. But then there's my other part of me is I miss hanging out with people. I miss talking to people. I miss going out for a cup of coffee. I just miss bullshitting with people until I found, okay, well, I could do the same thing with groups. And I found the mental health warriors during COVID. So I think there's two different camps. And I think it all depends on the individual, how they did, whether they did bad or whether they did good during COVID. Mentally, we're not talking physical because we don't want to get into that, but we're talking just the mental part of it.
Yeah, mental and psychological.
So we're not talking political stuff, guys. We're not going there. But
yeah, we're not talking political, guys.
Right.
We're not.
All right. Yep.
We're not. No, don't. Well, no, I don't want to. But hi, Vola. Hope you're well. But yeah, I'm going to say it straight up. The two words our Prime Minister basically said, and everybody was saying, stay social distant. I couldn't ignore that enough, which I did. Because if I did that, this platform wouldn't exist. It wouldn't. I have created this. We have been going this since 2019, the Warriors, since 2019. And the amount of peak guests that have been on, we've done over 800 shows on here. Over 800, which I think is phenomenal in that time. And the amount of people that have come on from all over the world, from America to UK to China, has been absolutely fantastic. And I thank everybody that has been part of this. Everybody. Because that's what COVID has done for me. So there you go.
You know what, Lori, I agree with you. She wrote that not having to be somewhere every day. I remember actually I was completing my internship. I actually didn't even get to walk, sadly, like for my PhD. It's in psychology, by the way. Someone asked me what's my doctorate in. And I was really sad because since I was really young, looked forward to walking and accepting my, diploma. And I didn't get to do it. So it was sad. That was the saddest part. But anyway, I was completing my internship. And before that, I was just feeling like, every kind of like practicum or clinical practice is different. And this one was very 9 to 5 and very fluorescent and very monotone. And I was feeling burnt out. I remember I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to make it until the end, like until I graduate, because I was so checked out. At the same time, though, I knew, there were things I still needed to learn, but I just didn't like the format. And so the whole thing with COVID, I was just like, oh my God, like I can be home, and it just was like, sort of felt like a blessing in disguise to me. And because everything just felt so go, 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 go while I was a graduate student. And I think people also needed that in the beginning. So, for the first 2 months, it was actually really, really nice. Like I finally had the first break of my life in so many years, like real break. And it was wonderful. But then, after a while, I think people, this is not political, but I think some people they really were leaning into the COVID thing. So much so that, there are people in my family who wouldn't even they would only communicate with their parents through glass, like the sliding glass door. They wouldn't be in the same room as them. Yeah, not even with a mask. It was really the phobias, and I don't know. Some people maybe didn't have OCD, but they were behaving like they had some traits or symptoms. But it was really the fear was insane. Yeah, and my rationale at the time was I remember I was just like, what if my dad dies in the next month? And I behaved this way, where it was like, I'm sorry, I can't see you. You can't see your grandchildren. I would rather take the risk of, giving COVID, even though I was careful, but it was more important for me to see people and to be with them, than to, I don't know, clinical psychology, yes. Clinical psychology, yeah. Then I know it's different. I know it's different for everyone. Everyone has different kind of values and everything. But to me, the human aspect is the most important piece. And when you cut that off, what's the point of being alive?
Yeah. So, going back to our experiences, one statement. If you could talk, let's look at this glass. Let's take this glass, for example. If you saw your younger self, there was suicidal, probably self-harming, being an addict, all this, very vulnerable, being an absolute asshole with everybody in the world, what's to comparing who you are now? What statement would you give them and why?
Well, you just described me in a nutshell. I mean,
I have to, Richard.
I'm all the above, or I was all the above. I would tell my younger self, it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah.
And just be honest about who you are and how you're feeling. That would be my biggest, what I would say to my younger self.
Yeah. Gilly?
I think that, I guess I'm going to bring up another example because that's what I do. My ADHD brain is just like, let's pull on this other thing. And it makes sense though, in the end. But I remember when I was in my training for psychology, I was in a practicum where there was a student who had more experience than me. And one thing she used to say to parents who would kind of push back in therapy is she used to say, like, you're the expert on your child, like maybe I almost completed my degree, but like you know your child best, And I think that's true for ourselves too. Like we need to trust our instincts. And if we feel like something is off about the way that other people are seeing us or interpreting us or labeling us, then I think that's where, you should really kind of dig in, do your own research, within reason, like look at, reputable sources and stuff and advocate for yourself. Because if you don't I feel like if other people misunderstand you, then maybe you can find a way to help other people see what you're really struggling with. And then you can actually get the real help that you need. And then things go on an upward trajectory after that. Once you can identify, where you need support.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Does that include doing dance videos on Instagram? Come on, I had to keep bringing that up with you.
What?
You doing dance videos on Instagram? Come on, I had to bring them up.
That's what people want to see. They don't want to see me like sulking. Think like what
I've only ever seen Gilly do one dance video on Instagram. One. And that one blew up, though, didn't it? It blew up. Yeah, you got a lot of interaction.
I don't know
on
which
that
one you're
video.
talking about.
I know what you're talking about. When you was promoting to get guests on here.
That's because I was promoting getting on a podcast. It was not the dancing. Yeah, if people want to be on your podcast, that's what it is.
But just keep going, guys. Just keep going, because I'm not going to say you live once, because you don't. You live every day, but you die once. And life is how you create it. Life is how you create it. And if you've got assholes in your lives that devalue you, disrespect you, judge you, and bully you, get rid of them. Even if it's family, get rid of them. I don't speak to much people anymore. With my family. Yeah, I went 6 years without talking to my mum. 6 years. Last time I spoke to my dad was a week after my 18th birthday. I'm now 34 and I don't miss him at all. I don't miss him. I'm living my life. And that's what it is. Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's addition by subtraction.
Exactly.
Sometimes, I forget who said it, but you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with the most. So if your life isn't where you want it to be, then it's probably because of the people you're hanging out with. So maybe it's time to cut some people out and maybe add some people that you want to aspire to be like. And I think that's what the programs are really good for, because you can find somebody. Hey, I like what they're doing. They got a good marriage. They got a great business. They're sober. So maybe I'll start hanging out with those kind of people. So maybe you need to upgrade your circle or downgrade your circle.
And that's exactly what I do, because if Pete, right, G-Force, I know you have to leave, but please do subscribe. Everybody, please do subscribe. We need subscribers here on the Warriors, but I'm going to make you all laugh here. And I know you're all going to go and look. I know you are. But if you actually looked at the very first YouTube video I uploaded on here compared to now, you'll see a massive difference. Because I used to do Facebook Lives once a week. I was depressed. I was actually actively drinking while I was doing the lives. Actively drinking. I got to the point where before I even came onto the show, I had alcohol in my system and I had a drink literally right next to me. And I kept doing that and having a drink while on the show. I used to do all of that. But now I don't. Now I don't, because I've gone over 10 months without a drop.
I just want to answer his question before he leaves, because he's going to leave. So I just want to answer his question. I'm okay with transactional analysis, but I'm more worried about relationships than transactions. So I'm okay if you're okay. And if you're not okay, let's not be okay together. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm all about relationships.
I know. And I used to do Facebook Lives, and I slated everyone around me. I slated my family, I slated friends, I slated Kerry, I slated the government. I was doing all of that. And now, thing is, as bad as people are, there's always a root cause to it. And you have to focus on the good people. Do we live in a toxic world? I'm going to say this bluntly. Do we live in a toxic world? Yes. But it's only toxic if you freaking focus on the toxic. Focus on you. Focus on the people you love. Yeah? And go and live your life. Go and live it. Because if you don't live your life, then somebody's going to live it for you. That's all I've got to say about that. And that's why I check in on people on a daily basis, see if they're okay. And if I get single word answers, I continue that conversation. I do it with Richard, I do it with Gilly, I do it with a lot of people. There you go. So any final words? So to the youth who maybe watching this, not communicating, or watching on the replay, and they're masking and they don't know how to approach people, but they want to. What feedback would you give them?
Reach out to Adam, reach out to Dr. Gilly, reach out to me. We're never gonna talk down to you. We're just gonna lift you up. So, and if you need any help, advice, or somebody just to listen to you, the three of us or anybody in the Mental Health Warriors are going to be there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes. Yeah, there's not just us three. There's Nick Ronald, there's Ashley Bowser, obviously 2 different countries. And I know Gilly's here. She's obviously a regular. I know she's back in a couple of weeks. So, yeah, I know I've got you, Gilly. But yeah, what's that?
I said, what do you mean? I didn't get it.
You're back on the show in a couple of weeks.
Yes. I am.
So yeah, just. But yeah. So what feedback would you give them?
About young people holding back
they're
on their
struggling to
thoughts and
reach out,
feelings.
if they're struggling to reach out.
If they're wanting to reach out, I would say,
Yeah, if they're
I
wanting
think
to,
it's, yeah, it's a little bit complicated, I think, with therapists, like people who reach out to me through social media asking for advice, I almost never respond to them because my license is on the line and I can't just give advice. Because I'm a psychologist. And then if you give the wrong advice, then that's a problem. And the other thing is people are complicated. So I don't really know you. If you ask me one line of advice and I don't know you and I don't know the intricacies of your life, and then I tell you the wrong thing without having more information, then that falls on me. But in terms of just more open, like kind of generalized feedback, like we can do that. So that's just so you know. But in terms of like getting help, you reach out to a mental health provider. That's what I would say, because that's who can really help you. Asking someone who doesn't know you, to help you with something or for advice with something, is probably not going to be very helpful. But if you get someone who you see consistently, who really understands the ins and outs of your strengths and what's hard for you, then that's what's actually, gonna help you the most.
Absolutely. So, to finish off, please subscribe, everyone. Please share this. Thank you for all your contributions. Keep them coming. I know YouTube Shorts will be uploaded over the weekend, and so will Instagram and Facebook Reels. They will. Yes, I got shouted at big at the start of the show. So, what's on the topic? There is a show next week. There is. Hence why I put myself on mute and I was listening to a voice note because that's next week's guest. Next week, I'll be discussing. I don't know if anyone else wants to come on it. I don't know. But next week, we are going to be talking with someone that's on a mission right now, and he's currently doing it. He's doing a walk all for mental health, and he's travelled from Manchester, England, and he's walking all the way to Milan, Italy. All for mental health. So we're bringing him on. He's called Kai. But then in a couple of weeks, I'm taking time off because I'm going to a birthday meal. But I know Dr. Gilly and Richard are back. And we're going to be shattering the stigma of mental health. We're going to be shattering it. Completely shattering it. So I hope you all tune into that. And any final words for everybody else?
Nope. Just make sure you share this and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that it goes out everywhere. So there's somebody that's struggling right now that we don't even know. So please share this.
Absolutely. I know Richard is looking for guests on his podcast. He always is. Do you want to push that across? Richard?
Yep. If anybody's looking to either guest on a podcast or sponsor a podcast, check out the Vertical Momentum Resiliency podcast.
Absolutely. And Dr. Gilly, get her book. Follow her because she's a legend, and I love her company. She knows how to say it as it is, and she'll help the best she can. She doesn't have a podcast herself, but she's growing too. I know I see it. So, yeah. Laurie's going to send me a hammer. Okay. But, yeah. We're all here. We're not going anywhere. And we'll see you next week. So, see you later.